It is time now for Morning Rounds. Joining us are CBS News chief medical correspondent Dr. John LaPook and CBS News contributor Dr. Holly Phillips.
Today we're marking the anniversary of a major landmark in medical history. It was exactly 50 years ago that the U.S. Surgeon General released the first report linking smoking to cancer. CBS News correspondent Harry Reasoner filed this report back in 1964.
In the history of the world, no non-essential habit ever got so entrenched so fast. 70 million Americans smoke. Today they got a message from the United States Surgeon General, who has had a blue ribbon committee studying their habit for 14 months.
It is a judgment of the committee that cigarette smoking contributes substantially to mortality from certain specific diseases and to the overall death rate.
John, that report was a real blockbuster, of course. Give us a sense of what the impact was.
I remember so well when that came out. I was in 6th grade, and back in the 50s and 60s, everybody and their mother was smoking. And trusted Americans, our own Edward R. Murrow with the cigarette in his hand smoking on television. And then you had famous people who everybody admired, like Audrey Hepburn, and who can forget in Breakfast at Tiffany's, that long cigarette holder.
Right.
So back
it was glamorized, right?
It was very much glamorized. And then in 1965, about 42% of American adults smoked, and that's dropped to about 18%. But still today, about 44 million Americans still smoke. That's 440,000 deaths a year, and more than a dozen cancers that we know of that are caused by it. So we still have a long way to go.
So, Holly, I want to ask you, that 1964 report set off a lot of public health and policy decisions. How did that actually make it harder for people to smoke? Was it a financial disincentive?
Right, it was just an overall public policy, public health awareness campaign. And, when you think about it, back in 1964, there were no restrictions on where you could smoke at all. You could smoke in a hospital, on an airplane. You could pretty much light up anywhere, which is hard to imagine nowadays. There are 26 states that ban smoking completely in all public spaces, and a lot of cities do as well. And one of the primary objectives there is to cut down on secondhand smoke. And it's actually worked. The amount of a chemical that we measure in people's blood to see if they've been exposed to secondhand smoke has dropped in half. So that has really protected not just smokers, hoping to get them to quit, but also people around them.
And there are actually even more laws that are going to come into effect soon. There's in New York City, which has been very aggressive in combating smoking, has a law that's going to go into effect in March that will ban sales to people under 21.
Yeah.
Do we need more laws, and do they actually work?
Well, Anthony, the age restriction on purchasing cigarettes is sort of one of the last frontiers when we think about health policy and anti-smoking campaigns. It's important to point out most people get addicted really young, before the age of 18 and often, or by the age of 21. So if we can make it a little more difficult for people to get the cigarettes before the age of 21, they're less likely to get hooked, and then we can protect them from smoking for the rest of their lives.
90% of smoking starts before age 21.
Yeah, so it's a huge amount. If we can just get people to hold off, it's likely that they won't start at all.
Right. That's a fascinating number. We are seeing a backlash against restrictions on smoking, and part of that is aggressive marketing of a new way to smoke, e-cigarettes. Take a look.
I'm Stephen Dorff. I've been a smoker for 20 years, and I just found the smarter alternative. Blue e-cigs. Blue lets me enjoy smoking without it affecting the people around me, because it's vapor, not tobacco smoke. That means no ash, and best of all, no offensive odor. With Blue, you can smoke at a basketball game if you want to. And how about not having to go outside every 10 minutes when you're in a bar with your friends? The point is, you can smoke Blue virtually anywhere. We're all adults here. It's time we take our freedom back.
What exactly is an e-cigarette?
E-cigarette, electronic cigarette, it's liquid that has nicotine, some flavoring, and some other chemicals, and it's heated up with a battery into a vapor, and you get the rush of the nicotine. The problem is it's not FDA approved or regulated. We really don't know everything that's in it. We don't know enough research in terms of the long-term risks. I spoke to Tom Frieden, Dr. Tom Frieden, who's the head of the CDC. He is very much concerned. Back in 2009, they did an analysis of 2 leading brands, and there were a bunch of very potentially dangerous chemicals inside. So what are the potential dangers of all this? We don't know, and yet it's now being marketed as the new cool.
You're mentioning marketing. Holly, I did a whole story on e-cigarettes, and the thing I found most fascinating fascinating is I interviewed a girl who was 18 who told me she started smoking them at 12, and that a lot of her friends were switching over to e-cigarettes. It seems like some of the marketing is maybe unintentionally attracting younger kids.
Yeah, very much so. When I look at that commercial, which it looks great. Stephen Dorff couldn't possibly look better. It's like Marlboro Man Take Two, right? He definitely looks cool, and I think that that's part of the marketing campaign, to make it look cool, to make it appeal to young people. And e-cigarettes themselves can be appealing to young people. They even come in flavors. There's bubble gum and chocolate. There are different colors smoke that you can blow out. It's not really smoke, but vapor, I should say. So it is targeting young people, and that's concerning. We don't really know the long-term effects.
And it's working, the marketing. The use among middle schoolers and high schoolers doubled from 2011 to 2012, and the last CDC estimate is almost 2 million of those kids have tried an e-cigarette.
Now with the start of a new year, you undoubtedly have so many people saying, I want to quit. What are the doctor recommended, or are there any, to quit, Holly? What should people do?
One of the good things is that Obamacare is going to support more efforts to quit. It'll pay for some smoking cessation programs. And with my patients, I say by any means necessary, right? When people are interested in using alternative things, like whether it's acupuncture or meditation, there are a lot of internet support groups. I say, whatever it is that you think might work for you, go ahead and do it. But it really is, you have to be ready to quit. I try and get my patients ready to quit, and that's when you're going to be most successful.
Dr. John LaPook, Dr. Holly Phillips, fascinating as always. Thank you.